Happy Wednesday. It's been a minute since I've hopped on here. It's such a it's such a weird experience for me to be on the internet. I don't know, imagine it is for a lot of people, but this like action of transmitting live into like the unknown, into the virtual space is so bizarre. I just want to say that, like, every time I press the button, I feel kind of nervous. And I feel that right now. So, hi. We're kind of moving into the end of Leo season. It's been a lot on top of a lot, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah, I was going to talk about the full moon. So Leo season is a lot, right? It's kind of a portal. I think it amplified and exaggerated, kind of platformed, elevated a lot of the themes of 2021. Because the themes of 2021 are really big themes in the fixed cross. The fixed cross includes Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. And all year long, the dynamic between Aquarius and Taurus is the main show for 2021. And this dynamic is, it's a lot of push-pull moving on. Let's see, I think that'll be better. So it's a lot of push-pull, moving between what is familiar and known and moving into what is unfamiliar and what is unknown. And so the sense of tension as we are either provoked or forced, or we feel our own internal momentum to move forward, combined with a kind of hope, anxiety, fear, the feeling of like, what's next? We don't know how to do the next thing because we haven't done it yet. I think that this is a lot of that feeling of tension. I've been taking writing classes for the last several months with someone named Janice Lee, who's an amazing writer and teacher. And yesterday I was working with one of her meditations on control, and it was really resonating for me a lot with the themes of Leo season. And this probably isn't like a new idea for most of us, but when we tune in with the feeling of control, a lot of times what we're tuning in with is the reality that we're not in control of much. And so the feeling of like being controlling, right? Like, I really want this particular thing to work out in this way, or I want that person to, do what I want them to do. It's like we can get gripped on what we already know. And even if it's something that we imagine for ourselves, we're imagining it from the paradigm that we're already in. And that doesn't actually allow us to move into the future. And so this meditation that she was offering, I was really appreciating it because it was asking to bring awareness and attention into the kind of seat of control in the inner body. Like, how are we orienting towards the feeling of wanting, something to happen or being attached to something? And then alternately, how can we let go? And letting go isn't not caring. And I think that's the important part. It's like, it's not that you don't care. It's that you care really deeply. and so in order to care for whatever it is that you're working with, yourself, relationships, particular situations, you have to care so much that you become really, really present. And it was reminding me of the times in my life that I've experienced like profound loss and instability, and how those experiences have brought me so deeply into the present. And I'm not in the past, I'm not in the future, I'm in the right now, and feeling that right now is the moment to pay attention, and that is the most important thing. And in that space, there's so much possibility, but it's hard to just exist in that space, right? Because we're coming from the past and we're moving towards the future, and we've got our egos to contend with and our bodies and all kinds of things that are in motion. So yeah, I kind of wanted to just start with that and speak to that a little bit because of the astrology of this week and what's coming up today and the next couple of days. So today, Mercury and Mars will form a conjunction at 12 degrees of Virgo. And if you're a Virgo or if you have many mutable sign placements, so the mutable signs include Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. And if you have placements around the middle of the sign, around 12 degrees, then pay attention because this conjunction is going to hit your chart or hit your placements. And when Mercury and Mars come together, we have the symbols of the mind and cognition. This is Mercury meeting with action and decision and desire and force, Mars. And so there can be a lot of energy coming into the mental space. And when Mercury and Mars are in Virgo, a lot of our mental energy can get oriented towards critique or like pulling things apart and seeing how things don't work. And this is super helpful. Super helpful because it is useful to see how things don't work, right? It's useful to see the problem somewhere. And also, Mercury and Mars combined in Virgo can pull things apart kind of ruthlessly. So if anybody out there is experiencing like intense critique energy, either in your inner self or in the world around you, if it's directed out towards others or you feel it coming directed towards you, I just want to encourage you to be soft with yourself and to be gentle with yourself, and to remember the axis of Virgo Pisces. The opposite sign of Virgo is Pisces, and to bring in some Piscean support. Like if you're getting really myopic and fixed on problems, or if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, or if you're kind of like circling around certain things in your mind and it's building a lot of energy in your body, then actually calling in some Pisces support could be super helpful right now. And Pisces support can feel like yielding, surrendering, really giving your weight like to a body that's much bigger than yours, like the ground, like the earth, like a lake, going to float somewhere. Breathing and like this kind of idea of letting go. And the letting go, again, isn't a not caring, but it's letting go of control, like letting go of an outcome, letting go of any idea that maybe you could control anybody else or what they think or what they're going to do. And really just getting present, right? And caring for what's present. And in the caring for what's present, we have to get really subtle, like really tune into like, what's the feeling that's here, right? Or what's the sensation that's here? And letting that be the surrender. The surrender is the past, the future, everything except for the right now. Mercury and Mars are coming together today, and then over the course of the next couple of days, they're both going on to form trine aspects. That's 120 degree aspects with Uranus in Taurus. But before we get there, Uranus is stationing retrograde, and it makes that station tomorrow. And so Uranus and all the outer planets will retrograde for about half the year in a year. So it's not necessarily like a big theme, like Mercury retrograde can be. But it is a time of integration. And when Uranus is retrograde, it's a time that that we can use for kind of like the inner awakening that Uranian transits ask us to practice. And Uranus as an energy is an awakening energy. It catalyzes change. It can feel really disruptive. It can feel inventive. It can feel spontaneous. When it's forward moving, we might find ourselves applying change in our lives, like pushing for particular things to change or experiencing change coming at us externally and like needing to deal with it. And then when Uranus turns retrograde, there's an invitation to take a lot of this change energy and to bring it within and to integrate it and to let it rest and to reflect with it. So think about wherever the sign Taurus is in your chart and what house it rules. And if you're not sure, check out Chani Nicholas. I'm sure most of you know who she is, has an amazing website. She's an amazing astrologer, but she has a great website where you can get your free chart, and it'll tell you like all of your house placements. And so go get your free chart and figure out where Taurus is in your chart, and then Google that house. So if you have like Taurus in your second house, if you're an Aries rising, then you're going to come up with themes of like resources and money and values and things like that. And then get associative, like take whatever Google tells you, whatever her app tells you, and do some free writing and think about like, what are these themes for you? Don't worry about like what the websites are saying, like take them as suggestions, and then what are they for you, right? So someone just commented that their fourth house, Taurus, and so major themes of the fourth house that anybody will find, searching on the internet, include home and family. But home and family are huge in terms of what they could possibly mean. So think about home in the broadest sense possible. You're at home in your body, you're at home on the earth, you've got your physical home, your locational home, if that's for a moment, if that's for years, if it's a tent, like where do you land? And when you think of family, think expansively about family. So you can get a free chart on Shani Nicholas's website. You can also get a free chart on my website. Her website is, she has a great, program that works with her book. And so it'll tell you all of your placements, like what sign is in what house, what planet is in what sign and what house, etc. And you'll get her interpretations of that. And so what I'm saying is, whatever interpretation you get from anybody, from any astrologer, take those associations and then workshop them in yourself. Like don't just take what people tell you it means. Have some kind of practice with astrology to make your own meaning out of it. And so someone else said they're a 10th house Taurus, right? So you'll read, if you read about the houses, you'll read about the 10th house a lot of times as the house of career and public image. But not everybody has a career and not everybody has like aspirations towards like building some kind of public image. And so think about like, what does this mean to you? And even if you are building a public image and you are building a career, think outside of that too. Like, what are you building out of your life? What does it mean to be in the public as a person, right? Who builds a life, who does something with their life energy. And so when you think about these themes of the houses, then think about how these themes are in some kind of process of evolution and change. And this is Uranian energy. And Uranus has been in Taurus since the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018. It'll be there through 25, 26. It's a fairly long transit. Uranus is considered a transpersonal planet or an outer planet. It speaks to collective energy and also more long-term processes. And so wherever Uranus is transiting for you, if it's hitting natal placements, where it's moving through your chart, you're innovating there. You're trying to do something different. You're trying to break free from the past. You're trying to break free from other people's scripts, from other people's programs and protocols, and even from your own. Someone is saying they have, well, I don't know if you're saying your natal placement is Uranus is in your fifth house or Taurus, so I'll pause on that. But, so wherever it's transiting right now, you're in some kind of process of needing to liberate your own energy and actualize your energy. And a lot of times that's really scary. It's really threatening. And especially with Taurus, because Taurus is fixed earth, it can be hard to change. Earth, the materials of earth form slowly over time, right? And so if you want to build a garden, grow a garden, you got to tend to it. And this is kind of like Taurus energy. It's like what we tend to and build to for a long time. So if you have Taurus in the fifth house, then maybe you're working with what you've built in your creative practice, or maybe you're working with the idea of children or your creative energy, what you're giving birth to in the world. If you have Taurus in the ninth house, you might be working with long-term projects of your own education, kind of like big picture philosophy ideas, academics, the feeling of how you could grow and how how you could expand in your life and what the priorities are. If you have Taurus in the second house, then you're working with money, with resources, with what you value and what you possess. And again, all of these themes, like, think about them for yourself, associate with them. They're huge themes. If Taurus is your rising sign, then you're working with your body, you're working with your identity. And wherever Taurus is, you're working with fixed earth energy, and fixed earth energy doesn't change easily, right? You can't move a mountain in a day. You have to, like, little bit at a time, right? If you've ever watched those like time lapse movies of like sand dunes moving, it's like little bit at a time. They will move, new mountains will form, but you got to give it time. Now, Uranian energy is not patient. It is impatient, and it is disruptive. And it will disrupt where we are stagnant. And if, you're thinking about these areas of your life, like, think about how you feel called to disrupt, and also how you are being disrupted and what it's asking of you. And tomorrow, Uranus will station retrograde, and it will be retrograde until January. And it in its retrograde will be encouraging us to integrate a lot of how we've been pushing for change so far this year. Okay, someone is commenting that Uranus is in Aries right now, right? No, so depends on who you're listening to. And this is there's a difference actually in astrology systems. So I work with tropical astrology, and tropical astrology is looking at the Earth's rotation around the sun and dividing that rotation into 12 different parts, and that's what we call the signs. These are loosely configured close to the zodiac constellations with the same name, but they are not the same. And sidereal astrology is working with constellation-based astrology, and I believe that in sidereal astrology, Uranus is in Aries. Check that out. You should check out the People's Oracle, at the People's Oracle here on Instagram, and they're awesome for sidereal astrology. But I work with tropical astrology. So in my system, Hellenistic astrology is also tropical astrology, yes. Sometimes it's also called Western astrology. So in the system that I use, Uranus is transiting Taurus right now. And I want to say that I personally think that all of the systems are correct. They all are right. Any of them are working with tracking celestial and terrestrial movement and helping us tune into that movement and tune into those mappings in an oracular, divinatory, intuitive way. And they're kind of like creating meaning through observation. And all of them will be right. And tune in with all of them and take what's meaningful for you, Don't let any of them be like the absolute truth, and entertain yourself with all of them. Anyway, so tomorrow, Uranus is stationing retrograde, and for the next several months, until January, it'll be revisiting some degree points that it's been visiting so far in 2021. And this is a great time for integration, and it's a great time for thinking personally about how you're changing in your inner world. And even though you're going to continue making the changes in your outer world, or they're going to continue being made upon your life, this is a really good time to think about, how do you meet this invitation for change? And in your inner body, in your inner experience, in your emotion, in your psyche, how do you open up to change? And again, Uranian energy is liberatory energy, and it involves freeing ourselves. And sometimes freeing ourselves means that we have to be really uncomfortable for a while, because we have to leave what's familiar and move into what is new. So with tropical and sidereal astrology, I think it's a 13-degree discrepancy. So it's not uncommon that certain placements might be the same in both. On Friday, Mercury will trine Uranus, and then on Saturday, Mars will trine Uranus. And so what I started off talking about with Mercury and Mars coming into conjunction today, they're both moving into trine with Uranus. And this is interesting, and it brings us right into the full moon, which I'm going to talk about next, because this orientation towards critique, right? And like, what isn't working that Virgo is so good at, where we can look at the pieces of things and we can break them down into their details, and we can go, I like this, I don't like that. This needs to be tweaked a little bit. Here I need something that's going to get refined. This is part of what Virgo can do for us. It can help us really tune into the details and to work skillfully with the details. It's an energy that supports cleansing, clarifying, and healing because we become more simple and less complicated. And so with the trine, what we have is a lending, flowing force. And here, the outer planet is pouring its energy into the personal planets. And when the personal planets perfect the trine, they open up the doors. And so over the course of the last couple of days and last week or two, these aspects have been in application, they've been growing, and then over the next couple of days and next week or so, they'll be separating from the trine. And this is a really cool moment for new insight and also specific and clarifying insight. So if you've been working, in whatever realm of your life to shift things up, to do something a new way, then right now is a really interesting time for you to tune into the subtle details of whatever it is that you're trying to figure out how to maneuver. Yeah, someone said, oh, OMG, that's why I've been feeling so slow. Maybe, that maybe is it, because we're being asked right now to get really specific. And if there are certain things that are like not working so well, and you've been kind of noticing them, but it's like, oh, you're focused more on the bigger picture. Now is the time to like really dial it in and make small changes. And remember that small changes have like a potentially huge reverberation. When Mars is moving into trine with Uranus, and again, that trine is perfecting late Saturday night Pacific time, so Sunday for a lot of folks, there can be things that are happening that feel like, wow, like all of a sudden something is happening. And with Mars trine with Uranus, things can fall apart really suddenly. They can come together really suddenly. And trine energy is kind of like unstoppable. It's earth into earth. It's flow into flow. Now you can use this for yourself again by thinking about what are you, when you tune in with Taurus themes and what Taurus is speaking to in your chart in terms of its house placements, its rulerships, etc. What are you trying to move towards? Like, what is this new way of being that you are working to embody? And then when Mars starts to perfect its trine and it's moving into that application now, today, take specific actions to support this new way of being. And so this is an amazing time for experiments. This is an amazing time to say, like, you know what? I'm just going to try doing this thing, that I want to be doing right now. But I don't need it to be a perfect ending. Like you're not looking for the completion point, okay? You're not looking for the product of the thing. You're experimenting. You're workshopping, you're researching, right? You're prototyping. And anywhere you can, see how you can shift things just a little bit, just minutely, to see if there's a new outcome potential. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, right? But like, what is it? It's kind of like, now I'm forgetting the phrase or the saying, but like dysfunction, like what is dysfunction? It's continuing to do the same thing, expecting different outcomes or something like that. I'm probably jumbling that up, but the feeling here is like, we're trying to change things. We can't change them by doing the same thing. And we're not in the new place. And so we have to kind of take a risk. we have to step out into some space of potential discomfort, potentially high discomfort, and try something different, try something new. The definition of insanity, thank you, not dysfunction. And I also just want to be careful with that word, insanity, because it means a lot of things. And so in this particular context, it's like we can make ourselves crazy by expecting new outcomes while we're continuing to do the same thing, you know. And it's like, oh, you could be in a relationship with somebody and it's like, I want it to be like this, I want it to be like this, but you're still doing things the same way. And then you're scared to not do things that way anymore because you're scared maybe of ending the relationship or changing the relationship. And it's like, if you want the change, start to change and just give it a try and do a little piece, right? Like incremental little changes. Try one thing a little bit different as you move into the next couple of days, and think about for yourself, you know, what are you trying to do that's different? And if you're practicing new ways of being and you've already practiced a couple of times, you know, practice it again, right? And yeah, I'm stuck in my ways too. I think we all are, you know, we're all stuck in our ways. And the older we get, the more stuck we are. And this is an amazing opportunity for all of us to change some things. As we're dealing with these trines, or as we're getting the influences of these trines, we're also moving into a full moon. And this is the second full moon of Leo season, the second full moon in Aquarius. The first full moon was way back at the beginning of the month on the 23rd, I think, right at the kind of first degree of Aquarius. And this is the second and last one for Leo season and Aquarius this year. And so these two full moons kind of bookend Leo season. And if you've listened to the horoscopes that I did for Leo season, and you heard me talk about this in your horoscopes, and you can find them also now on my page if you scroll back. But Leo season, because it's part of the fixed cross, and really I think with these full moons and the transits that are occurring in Leo season, is kind of like a condensing of a lot of the major themes of this year. And so ways where, you know, we're feeling the push to do something different, we're feeling the need for change, where change is pushing upon us, things are happening in the world that are so fucking chaotic and catastrophic. They're not new things, right? It's like the themes of the year are getting pulled into a focal point in Leo season. They're being centered right now. And that's what Leo does. It's ruled by the sun. It centers a particular kind of energy. And so we're about to transition into Virgo season starting on Saturday. And the sun ingresses Virgo just a few hours after the full moon. And the full moon is, I think, kind of like a threshold that is propelling us into this new way of being. And it's not like one day you wake up and then you're different, right? So it's not like, oh my God, starting on Sunday, you're a totally different person. This is a process of change. As we move into this new season, I think that a lot of the pieces that have been kind of floating around up here that maybe have been getting more intense and coming into dynamic movement over the last 30 days, we're going to start to figure out for ourselves where we want to place things. And this is what Virgo can help us do, is organize, clarify, simplify, and heal. And absolutely, like whatever is happening with COVID, you know, with the pandemic, there's going to be more and more of that. And maybe that's a different time and place for me to like tune in more with collective energy. I'm more tapping into the personal right now. And not that the personal isn't fully contained within the collective, or that we're all having our own experiences and very deeply impacted by the pandemic and lockdown and stuff like that. But that's all out of our control, right? And so this is kind of this feeling that I keep talking to, is that we are working right now to let go of control. And in the ways that we're letting go of control, it's not that we're not caring, and it's not that we're starting to ignore. It's that we need to organize ourselves around not being in control, literally. None of us have any control over the military action of the country, the virus, the pandemic. It's like, maybe there's some people out there who might be tuning into this IG live that do have some kind of control, but like most of us don't. We're just living our lives, trying to affect change in the ways that we can, however small our effect may be. And we have to give ourselves sincerely to those efforts while also letting go of attachment to what the outcome is going to be. And where we're getting attached to the outcome right now is creating stagnancy. And in this full moon that we're moving towards on Saturday, the very last degree of Aquarius, before moving into Pisces, this is what the moon is doing, we're working with a degree in the zodiac that literally describes something falling apart, a structure completely falling apart. The concept and the underlying energy or ideas of a structure becoming meaningless and void. And what happens after something falls apart? Dissolve. And then we move into the realm of Virgo Pisces, right? This axis of what is completely outside of our control, Pisces, what is overwhelming, what is everywhere, and what is actually within the locus of our control. This is Virgo. And as we're moving through these next couple of days, Mercury Mars conjunction Virgo today, moving into the full moon, the trines Mercury and Mars are making to Uranus. I want to say that what we have access to control is our own efforts, right? And the ways that we are approaching what is completely uncontrollable in our lives. And this is prime time to be really honing in on what you can control, which is tiny, right? But it is really important because it's inside of you. It's your internal space. To some extent, you are able to have some effect on yourself. None of us can control ourselves entirely. We've got hormones to deal with. We've got genetics. We've got the effect of the food that we ate yesterday. It's like there's a whole lot that is way outside the realm of our conscious control that is acting upon us. And Virgo, in its energy and in its message, speaks to practice and discipline. And the word discipline includes the word disciple, right? So we need to show up at the altar of our own lives with humility and with patience and with perseverance. And we have to practice being the people who we want to be and living the lives that we want to live. And practice isn't perfect, right? That's not the point of a practice, to be perfect. The point of a practice is to practice what you're trying to do. And anyone that has a meditation practice or a movement practice or an art practice or any kind of thing that you think of as a practice, probably part of the reason that you enjoy it is because every time you show up for it, it's different. And every time you show up for it, you have different challenges and different opportunities, and you're learning things. And so I wanted to offer that today because what I'm feeling in my own self is really this intensity of Mercury and Mars together, and a kind of opportunity for me to get really fucking freaked out. Like I feel a lot of mental energy. I'm a person who experiences anxiety. In my family, I have lots of conditions for depression, for bipolar. I feel that in myself. I can oscillate a lot between different energies. I can get really overwhelmed emotionally. I don't know if anyone else out there relates with that. But what I've been kind of sensing is this feeling of Mars and Mercury coming together. So heat and intensity, this is Mars, starting to move into the mental space, Mercury, in Virgo, right? And so it's like, oh my God, that thing, oh my God, that thing, this thing, that thing, that thing. So many things, more on top of more. Woo! Feel really anxious. You guys are feeling anxious too. Well, I'm glad that I'm not alone. And I'm really feeling for all of us because it's an anxiety producing time and it is more on top of more. And over the next couple of days, how can we intentionally practice doing the new thing? And just to circle back to this wonderful meditation that Janice offered that has been really inspiring to me. She was talking about how do we envision new futures for ourselves? Like, how do we actually move into a future that is beyond capitalism? How do we move into the apocalypse, right? Like, we're here. The horsemen have all arrived. It's famines, it's plagues, it's floods, it's all here. And we're in a time of transition and transformation. And whatever is on the other side isn't going to look like it does over here. And so how do we imagine into that space? How do we create our new future? We can't plan for it because we're still in the paradigm of now. We're still in the paradigm of what we know, right? In order to imagine, we have to let go of the outcome. In order to actually move into this new thing, we have to not know what we're moving into. Because anything that we can conceive of now is fully based upon what we have already experienced. And that's not what we're moving towards, right? We're moving towards something that is new, something that we haven't done yet. So how do we imagine into what we have not experienced yet? That's the threshold, I think, of this full moon. And someone asked, how will the full moon affect Aquarius? And so I want to just name Aquarius as the conceptual components of structures. So if we think about like the structure of the United States, as an institution or as a collection of institutions, what are the concepts that hold those structures together? What are the assumptions and expectations? What is the mental realm that makes the machine work? So that's Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed air, fixed thought, the way that information pulls material into form. And also, Aquarius speaks to the nervous system. And the nervous system in our bodies is it records experience. And so every experience that we have layers upon every experience we've ever had to create a structure, right? And that structure is linguistic, it is cognitive, it is relational. It's like we build upon our past experiences in order to know what we're doing anywhere. The nervous system can change, right? And this is the thing about consciousness. It's like all the time we're having experiences where we're going, I could do this a different way, right? Like we might watch a show about something, or a friend might tell us, or it's like it is a happenstance and an accident, but there's some kind of aha, interesting, like, that could be different, that could change. And so Aquarius is the conceptual foundation of material reality. And it is also the truth that material reality is constantly changing. And if we think about Aquarius as a symbol of consciousness, consciousness is always awakening to its own potential, right? And when we have this kind of aha moment of, I could do that differently, that's a new neural pathway starting to form, right? That's excitement, that's enlivening, that's energy. And it's also a challenge to do the new thing, to try it differently. So if you're a person who relates strongly or identifies strongly with Aquarius, because you're Aquarius Sun or Aquarius Rising, then take what I said and think about how you might apply that to yourself, to your identity, or to your body. Now, everybody has Aquarius in their charts. And so you can also tune in with where's Aquarius in your chart. And wherever Aquarius is, that is a territory where right now you're restructuring and you are learning some new things and some new ways of being. And you have to show up with discipline, right? And practice. And it's not easy. I didn't really talk about Saturn much today, but Saturn is moving through Aquarius. And Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. They're square to each other all year long in 2021. And so we have like a lot of symbols of dense kind of earthly material energy being infused with change. And so wherever Aquarius is in your chart, you have to take the dense material action of persistence and commitment and repetition and working through challenge. And you have to let that be your offering to change. Because if you want to change, you have to keep showing up for it, right? Because it doesn't really happen overnight. For ourselves and our personness, change can happen rapidly in the world, and we have to show up for it. We have to practice it. We have to commit to it. The desire to change and the willingness to change and change itself can happen. Can happen. And we have to commit to keeping it happening, right? Because we can have some kind of moment of enlightenment and we're like, oh, I could do that differently. And then habit will pull us into the way that we did it before. Because those neural pathways that we've developed for the last decade, or, in terms of our cultural body, the last several centuries, right? Like those are habits that are deep, and they have built structure around them that continues to funnel energy into the way that things have always been done. If you are, trying to explore polyamory, for example, like you're trying to change up the way that you're doing relationship, you have to battle like a whole world that's been built around monogamy and like an entire society that is built up to support a nuclear couple. That's a commitment. If you want change, if you want to do something that's different, that's innovative, that is future forward, you have to keep showing up for it, because the density of the material realm is built upon the past. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try and answer some of these questions. So Aquarius. Okay, what about Pisces? So Pisces, you're really dealing with the social realm, I think, in terms of where Taurus is in the Pisces chart. You're dealing with communication. You are trying to change your mind. Right now, Pisces people are going through a lot of mind opening and mind expansion opportunities. This is a really good time to be learning about cognition and brain plasticity, because you want to change your mind, and in changing your mind, you're also changing your communication styles, and therefore changing your relationships and how you're connecting with other people. People who are working with the moon, someone commented on their Aquarius moon. When you're working with the moon, you're really deeply working with the inner body and the emotional body, the somatic body. And whenever you're working with the moon, you have to feed the moon and you have to nourish the moon. And the Aquarius moon, I think, is nourished with intelligence. It's nourished with community. It is nourished with big picture. So this might be a time when it could be really great to, watch like space movies, to watch those like National Geographic movies on space and the formation of the universe, and like remind yourself that you're a little speck, and that the universe is an infinitely creative, majestic force. That could be very nourishing for some Aquarius moons. Working with second house issues, you're working with values, you're working with resources, you're working to restructure the way that you orient around your own offering, what you have and what you hold as important, and then also what you give and what you offer in the world as a means of offering value and contributing to others. Okay, Nikki asked a question about why some charts show their Saturn in one house as opposed to the other. It would have to do with the house system, probably. And for example, I told people to check out Chani Nicholas's site. And Chani Nicholas uses a house system called whole sign houses, and that whole sign houses are more traditional in terms of Hellenistic astrology. I don't use whole sign houses. Typically, I use Placidus, and Placidus is more of a modern house system, more in use by the psychological astrologers. And so your placements will change depending on the house system that you're using. And just like sidereal and tropical astrology, the house systems all have value in them. And so sorry, not sorry, but it depends, right? So the answer is it depends. You have to learn about the houses and figure out which one you really resonate with and want to use. And yeah, so Saturn in Aquarius in the 6th house, someone is asking about that. This is a great opportunity for you to be restructuring your functionality, your body, your well-being, your day-to-day, and how you're applying your time, your energy, and your intention. Be fierce about what you want to build in your life and apply yourself with dedication and commitment. In whatever way you are trying to innovate your life, because if you're Aquarius in the 6th house, I think there's a good chance that you are Virgo rising, and that means that you have a lot of creative energy bubbling up with Uranus transiting your 5th house in Taurus. And so Saturn in Aquarius, I got that one wrong, excuse me, with Uranus transiting your 9th house in Taurus. And so with the availability that you have to think into the big picture right now, and to think about what you want your life to look like and what you want to move into, you have to take tangible, practical, logistical steps every single day to make that happen for yourself. It can't just be a dream out here that someday you're going to get to. You have to make it happen for yourself. Someone's a Virgo and super nervous about Virgo season. What are my thoughts? Don't be nervous. Don't fear astrology. Astrology is here as a tool to help you listen to yourself and believe yourself and trust yourself and know yourself. And in Virgo season, Virgo is actually getting a lot of support to connect with the energy of the other earth signs. And so for Virgo natives, Virgo season, I think actually is going to give you some energy to apply yourself in more direct and intentional ways, especially when it comes to what you want to build in your life. And again, like your creative energy, what are you creating? This is your life, right? You get to create it to some extent. Happy birthday, Kabanoki. Happy birthday. How to prevent burnout, draining energy from trying to show up every day. What a great question. I don't know, showing up isn't all in action. You know, it's not about being productive. Like, you can show up for yourself by resting, by napping, by, again, yielding and surrendering and calling out to your spirit guides and asking for support. Showing up for yourself can be asking for support, right? Try and show up and let people hold you. Think expansively about what it means to show up. It is not just what capitalism and patriarchy have taught us, that it's about being productive and doing, right, and taking action. You can make incremental changes towards what you want to be changing into in your life by attuning with your subtle body, by reflecting, by journaling, by dreaming, right, by loving yourself. So don't burn yourself out. That's probably an old pattern and something that you can change, or that you might want to be working to change by tuning in with yourself, right? That might be the way that you do the change, is by allowing yourself to rest. All right. Taurus in the 10th house. Leo risings. Hello, I'm Leo rising too. So Taurus in the 10th house. Well, I got on this live because of everything that I was talking about, and like this feeling of, you know, I am trying to make changes for myself. And one way that I'm thinking about that as a Leo rising with Taurus in the 10th is that I want to show up in my public image and my work in the world with more spontaneity and authenticity. And that's Uranus, right? Like what's authentic and real in a moment. And I, like I said, can be kind of anxious, and when I get on these things, I can be kind of nervous, and so I usually deal with that by planning. Like, I've got like lots of notes, and today I didn't do that. I just decided to come on and speak from my heart. So with Taurus in the 10th house, think about how you are meeting your work and who you want to be in the world, and how you don't need to perform in that space, right? Like can you come as yourself, right? And not worry, as much about what other people think or their judgments or your judgments on yourself, and try and be authentic, whatever that means, you know, but tune in with your heart. So I'm going to leave it there. I've been recording Virgo season horoscopes all day. I'm going to finish them up in the next couple days, and they will be out on Saturday, which is the day of the full moon. Maybe Sunday, depends on how quickly I get them edited. But they'll be coming out this weekend, and I'm wishing everybody a lot of support for everything that everyone is going through right now, and so much love, and take care of yourselves, and be gentle with yourselves, and be gentle with each other. Bye for now.